This is the Classic Auto Mall podcast, broadcast from the studios inside the Classic Auto Mall in Morgantown, Pennsylvania, just 1 hour west of Philadelphia at Pennsylvania Turnpike exit 298, featuring nearly 1,000 classic, vintage, and barn-find vehicles for sale under one climate-controlled roof. Now, here's your host, Classic Auto Mall president and the man with all the toys, Stewart Howden.
Oh, that cracks me up every time. JR, you've got quite the radio voice, so...
You're welcome.
Anyway, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it suits you and wherever you happen to be in the world and timing and all that good stuff. Today is show number 118.
Wow.
Which will air its first time on America's Web Radio on December the 9th, 2023. We've had quite the year. Consignment-wise has been through the roof. And sales have been much better this time. You know, November was amazing and December starting out amazing. So, thanks. We always worry about the economy and all that, and it doesn't seem to, let me say this out loud, knock on a little bit of wood. It doesn't seem to affect us as much as it seems to affect other businesses. We seem to be, God, dare I say it, somewhat recession-proof.
There's always
somebody's always buying or selling.
That's right.
That's the beauty of it. So, the fun thing is that, or the nice thing is, I should say, is that our scope and size of inventory allows us to always have something for somebody. So it's not like, we don't have any of those today, but maybe check back with us in a couple of weeks. Yeah, we got 10 of those.
It's true.
This morning, 60 Corvettes. I checked.
Is that right?
Yeah. The inventory today is 1,085 cars.
It's almost 1,100.
Yeah, and thanks to the Pat Travers Band again for our music and intro and all that stuff. We appreciate them. Go support them if you see them out on the road. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter too. Newsletter.com. ClassicAutomall.com is our website, and it's got all of our inventory with about almost 100 pictures for each vehicle. But also check out our YouTube site because we're really starting to get some content going on there as well too. Test drives and how-tos and podcasts and all kinds of different stuff. So we're just going to be content heavy.
That's right. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Classic Auto Mall.
Yeah, subscribe to it so we can get paid somehow.
Somehow.
But TikTok is going through the roof, and I'm still blown away by the demographics on TikTok. That it's actually older people.
It is.
It's not just kids dancing and lip syncing to whatever.
There's a lot of that on there too. But
I would imagine so. I mean, there's a lot of everything on there, right?
Everything. Educational, entertainment, dirty stuff, and cars. Lots of car content.
Is it, excuse me, the educational side of it? What can you, aren't they limited to short videos? And so what?
No, you can go up to, there's a 10-minute limit actually on
Gotcha.
some. Nobody wants to sit for 10 minutes.
You could do some learning in 10 minutes.
I learned how to, this is the greatest thing on TikTok. Out of all the things I've learned, if you tap an egg, if you tap the fat end of an egg with a spoon until it makes a little cracking noise. Have you seen this? It releases the yolk from the air sac that's in the egg, and it all comes. It's the greatest thing. I use it every day. I know it's not car related.
No, it's not even close. Egg related, though. Very egg related.
It's fascinating to me.
Wow. So anyway, and you call me going down a rabbit hole.
Wow.
Thank you.
But
he's got food to go with.
Exactly.
There's lots of car stuff on there too, educational.
Well,
you can learn how to do stuff.
Well, and that's one of the things that we're going to be doing is showing people how to consign a car, showing people how to do different things. There's a lot of different things that you can do educational-wise when you're going to our Classic Auto Mall YouTube site, and that is we're going to teach you how to ship your car and insurance and just anything that we can do that will help the process of owning a classic or special interest or a collector car. Then we're gonna try to put it out there for you. So in the coming months, you're going to see a lot of content on there and TikTok and of course then by virtue of just default Facebook and Instagram too, right?
Yep, that's right.
All that'll go on there as
absolutely.
well,
it's all cross promoted, and we did a nice little skit with Alyssa and Garrett over the weekend. It was a lot of fun. That's coming up, and
cool.
Little mini film.
Well,
if you will.
And it's funny. We're going to make Garrett an actor, and all of a sudden he'll have a new hat to wear around here. Garrett is my stepson that works for us as one of our car specialists and helps with our transportation as well too. And all around good guy.
Yeah,
he's become quite the student of classic car world and learned a whole lot in about 3 or 4 years that he's been here. So hats off to him, and thanks for all the hard work that you do. And come on over for dinner tonight because we're having steaks again.
Nice.
He gets quite the meal package. That's part of his negotiated deal.
Right. Awesome.
I want meals. So anyway, where might you add? Here, we haven't done a show in 3 weeks, so you know what that means.
A lot of cars.
A lot of cars sold. Where did we sell cars, you say?
Yes, where?
Why, let me tell you, Steve.
Okay.
How about Mechanicsville, Iowa, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Newtown, Pennsylvania, Studio City, California, Gilbert, Arizona, Malvern, Pennsylvania, Carlisle, Pennsylvania, Northeast Maryland, McAllisterville, Pennsylvania, Royersford, Pennsylvania, Ewing, New Jersey, Mount Etna, Pennsylvania, Warrington, Pennsylvania, East Sound, Washington, Billings, Montana, Lapeer, Michigan, Elverson, Pennsylvania, Mesa, Arizona, Salisbury Mills, New York, Nesconset. What is that? I'm still getting that wrong, aren't I? I don't know what it is. Somebody will call me and correct me.
No clue.
Thank you. Media, Pennsylvania.
What state?
New York.
No clue, New York.
All right. Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Washington, D.C. Havertown, Pennsylvania. Bradenton, Florida. Pontiac, Michigan. Montauk, New York. Hamburg, Pennsylvania. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Carver, Massachusetts. Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Norfolk, Virginia. Cumberland, Maryland. Jacksonville, Florida. Lake Wales, Florida. Sydney, Ohio. Cape May Courthouse, New Jersey. Alexandria, Ohio. Holly, Pennsylvania. Palm Harbor, Florida. Atlanta, Georgia, Slatersville, Rhode Island, Hamburg, Pennsylvania, Cornelius, North Carolina, Lidditz, Pennsylvania, Brookhaven, Pennsylvania, Red Bank, New Jersey, Sayville, New York, Raleigh, North Carolina, Philly, Williams, Arizona, and just Australia.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm out of breath.
18 states, one other country. That's amazing.
That's 3 weeks of sales, but man, I mean, it's been busy. And of course, what's selling? It's a little bit of everything. And it's hard. People say, can you put your finger on the market of what's hot right now? No, I really can't. It's everything. Just when we think that it's going to be a Model A Ford is the next thing to sell, then it's a Corvette. And the next thing we think it's going to be a Corvette, it becomes a pre-war Rolls Royce. And it's really, really hard to predict what the next thing to sell is. But we have noticed that we have been talking to our clients about lowering their prices after the cars have been here a certain amount of time. And we're seeing a tremendous amount of activity on those said lowered cars. So we're calling people up and saying, look, your 120 or 90 days is up, but we're happy to roll it over and continue to market your car and have it in our showroom. But we're going to have to do a price adjustment if it hasn't sold, because usually the only reason a car hasn't sold is because of price. There could be other reasons, but usually it's price. There's a butt for every seat. It's just a matter of finding out the right price point. And so we try it at maybe a higher level to begin with, just to see if, maybe the market has shifted a little bit, because we don't always know. I mean, you don't know if the next guy's going to walk in and just say, I'll take that one at whatever price, that they're not even asking price.
True.
About it. Price is not the negotiating thing. The car is the car that they've always wanted, and if they pass on it now, they may never get one. By the way, it's snowing outside for those of you who are listening to us on 12/9/23 who would be in our lobby, which there's nobody. There's actually a lot of people in here.
There
today.
is. It's busy today.
So
they came in to get out of the snow,
yeah.
the blizzard.
Yeah.
Oh, and Pat Travers update.
Yes.
I'm looking at their tour dates, and I say, Boca Raton, Virginia Beach, and then it says past shows. So actually, no upcoming shows.
No
scheduled.
upcoming shows. So, we'll find them somewhere out there. I'm sure they're going to be touring again. So,
Sure.
Anyway, some of our new inventory in. We got the 1966 Ford Fairlane 500 in nutmeg over black. I love that color. Nutmeg.
Beautiful.
Now, this thing, have you seen this thing?
Yes, I have. It's a
501
beautiful
cubic inch
car.
stroker, Tremec TKO 600 manual, Willwood brakes, upgraded suspension, Morrison chassis. This thing is unbelievable. The amount of time and effort and money, and trust me, for the asking price for this, you could not duplicate this thing if you tried. I mean, that's what people fail to realize is a lot of these prices, they say, oh, that price is too much. Well, the $50,000 car, the guy spent $100 building it or more.
No,
And you see that all the time. And people say, oh, I saw a car on Mecum or Barrett-Jackson or one of the sites, and it sold for, $200,000, and my car's as nice as that. Well, A, no, it's not. And B, the guy who sold it for $200 might have had $300 in it. You don't know. So just because you see it doesn't mean that it means anything in relative terms. It doesn't mean that they're making a $100,000 profit.
Right. It's always more to build a car than to buy it built. And this car is spectacular. Really one of the nicest Fairlanes we've had.
Yeah, it really is. And that's a neat body style, too. I love the Fairlane body style. So if you get a chance, you can check out all of our inventory, classicautomall.com. How about this one? The 68 Camaro convertible. Have you seen this one with the 6-cylinder?
Sure.
No, such a liar.
Oh, this is the one that looks like came out of the factory.
Yeah. It's
great car.
Yeah, factory fresh, Matador red over red, 250 cubic inch inline 6 for a Camaro convertible.
And a 2-speed.
And a 2-speed power glide.
It's incredible.
Woo-hoo!
It's incredible. This is the way people bought them as daily drivers.
It was what they called a secretary's car. The Thunderbird was like that, and the Mustangs with the 6-cylinders were like that. And not to excuse me, diminish the secretary. Sorry, I didn't hit my cough button. But that's what they were called because they were not. It wasn't being bought like a lot of the guys in the era were buying them for their high performance. They wanted the fastest, baddest, biggest. The ladies back then wanted the look of the Mustang or the Camaro, but they didn't necessarily care about the big motor in it. And some of them even cared about fuel mileage back in the 60s. So this thing is pretty amazing, though. It's surprising because most of these that you see, you don't see. You know why? Because the guy's going to buy this car and put a 396 in it and do all the
Krager SSTs.
And all the mods that you do.
Yep.
Because it's a prime candidate for that. You wouldn't do that on a car that came with a big motor and had matching numbers and all that stuff. But one that came with this type of motor or has a replacement motor and nobody knows where the original motor is, and that's a perfect candidate for a resto mod or some kind of interpretation of that.
Well, I hope the new owner will keep it just as is, but that's not my choice. But it is perfect. It's really a museum piece.
It's like getting rid of your dog, and you want to make sure it goes to a good home, right? Just you want the car to go to a good home. That's true. So the other new inventory, the 1999 Plymouth Prowler convertible.
Oh, yeah.
Prowler yellow over charcoal black. But this has they call it the Lamborghini doors. They're not really called that. Right?
Scissor doors or Lambo doors, yeah.
They open up. If you can, I'm on radio, I'm doing the motion of up. But it's really, this thing has got a lot of cool touches to it. The doors like that, the LED underbody lighting. And, of course, these things were pretty interesting cars. I mean, they were... a lot of people felt they were underpowered when they came out, and hoped that there would be a small V8 in them. And of course, they didn't. They had a 3.5 liter V6 with a 4-speed automatic, but a very cool looking car and a retro rod looking car, and all the looks of a 1930s hot rod with all the reliability of a new thing, almost a resto mod factory built, if you will. But this one's really cool. They're only made, I think, 600 of them in Prowler yellow, which is the color that this one is in, and it's really a cool car. Also,
and if I may say, like many of our owners, this owner happens to be super meticulous. I couldn't find a flaw on this car, really, on the paint or chrome, and he's got a lot of chrome touches in there and for show and stuff. It's neat.
When we return, we'll take a quick break here. And again, don't forget classicautomall.com. We'll be visiting with a guest in the studio, Kevin Mazzucola from the Philly Auto Show when we were back on the Classic Auto Mall podcast. See you in a couple minutes.
Whether you want to buy or sell a classic collectible or special interest vehicle, you need to visit the Classic Auto Mall website for more information. If you're looking to buy, you can easily search our inventory of more than 1,000 vehicles on the web at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall podcast from the Classic Auto Mall studios in Morgantown, Pennsylvania, with my buddy, Kevin Mazzucola from the Philly Auto Show, Pennsylvania Auto Show.
Right state.
Right state. Right, as my grandmother used to say, right church, wrong pew.
They never let me in usually.
Well, lightning can strike in odd places, right? Kevin, thanks so much for being on the show today. I know you got a busy day today.
No, it's my pleasure. I was going over to the Hershey for a meeting, but wanted to stop in, and it's been a while since I've been here.
It's changed a little.
I remember we were talking. It used to be a furniture store with that beautiful oak.
Yeah.
And
he said with a little tone.
Yeah, and now you have beautiful metal that harkens back to memories, which is kind of like what the auto show does, especially in some of the areas of the show.
Absolutely. You know, what's really cool is the auto shows, not just you guys, but a lot of them realize that the collector car world should be participating in these because people like to see the comparison between new and old.
Yeah, it is. You know, the Philly Auto Show is iconic and it's generational. And what better way on generational inspirational to have what we call back in the day way, where I know you'll be participating, AACA, and our friends from that organization. But we do surveys at the end of the show to find out what went well, what didn't, what was hot, what was not.
Right.
And the classic vehicles rank right up there with the exotics some
Isn't
years.
that crazy?
Because it's memories. Because grandpas are bringing grandsons or dads or moms, and they're like, yeah, that's cool, but you should go see this car when I was a kid, because cars are memories. Right?
Absolutely. Well, and we see that here all the time, where people come into Classic Auto Mall, and they're not into cars, they're not car people, yet all of a sudden they go, wow, this has brought back memories. And I wasn't thinking of that when I came.
There's no product that a person buys over the years that is more attuned to that person and their family because of the memories. You don't remember your last tube of toothpaste.
Right.
You don't, maybe at home, I understand that,
Yeah.
but you're not in your home with Sally at the drive-in in 1973.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
you're not taking somebody to the prom, and we saw that with the pandemic. People, not that we didn't have a love affair, but that was a safe place, and that's why you saw sales in this country explode beyond.
It was crazy.
And there wasn't enough of them
Yeah.
because they wanted something nicer, newer, and a safe place so they could go to the birthday or the bar mitzvahs, or even my daughter's prom was cars going by, you know, so
Right.
it was a weird time, and I think that really reinforced what the motor vehicle is to people in most cases.
Right. When the pandemic hit, did you feel like we did that maybe it was over, that there was going to be no coming back at it? I mean, I thought for us, we were going to close and be done.
Yeah. I'll say it on the dealer side, not the show side.
Sure.
But on the dealer side, yes, you know, if you remember, we could not even legally sell automobiles in the state of Pennsylvania for a significant period of time. That's like a baker can't sell a cake.
Right.
And then you had a hodgepodges of different states allowing sales in different ways. And so you had New Jersey able to sell, or Delaware, or Ohio, yet we still couldn't because it was on a state-by-state basis. It was an absolute mess, yet no one could ever forecast the consumer and the resiliency and the importance of the motor vehicle in the sales that we saw afterwards. No one could have predicted that. And it was a time that will be on its own 10, 15, 30, 50 years from now. They'll be talking about, you know, what was going on with the pandemic in the automobile industry.
Well, and I think what we realize is we're a pretty resilient country. Yeah. We can get through a lot of stuff. Although it's funny, the liquor stores were closed and people were going over to Delaware. I tried to get, legally or not, I don't know, our kids were going to ship us some boxed wine from Texas. And it didn't work out too good. The package never showed up. I'm not sure if somebody intercepted it or it just got
that's what important stuff back then.
That was, you know, I can guarantee you there's three things we're not going to run out of if there's ever a pandemic: toilet paper, paper towels, and red wine.
There should be a book about that.
I think there should be. Absolutely. So what can you tell us? So we're about 2 months out now from the show. Is that right? Let's see.
The 12th. Well, the black tie is the 12th, and then the show starts the 13th, Saturday.
So we're
January.
So we're a month and a week. That's right. Go.
We're in the throes of it at the office.
This year has gone so fast.
I know.
It is really amazing. So what can you tell us exciting it's going to be coming up at the show in January?
Well, overall shows have struggled with that pandemic, right? We didn't even have a show in 21. And so as things come back, each show is getting bigger. We'll be taking the entire floor at the Pennsylvania Convention Center, and that is important for those people. The number one reason why a show is important is because it's unique.
Right.
Because everybody's going online and digital and maybe even buying a car online, and that's fine for a certain amount of people. But for most, as we said, it's memories, and not everybody buys a new car that often in their life.
Right.
And so it is a unique, tangible way. And that's become more and more valued in the sense of the way the world has changed. And so it makes it more unique. So people are coming, generations, we call it fueling Philadelphia, and we're going to fuel concepts, we're going to fuel classics, we're going to fuel their imagination, and really set the bar in a sense of the consumer and coming to that show and what they expect.
Sure. And one of the things I read that you had said in an interview previously was the fact that a lot of people may do a lot of their purchasing online and ordering and checking and looking, but the last piece of the puzzle is seeing that thing in person.
That's right.
And what better place to do that
with not a selling, it's not a selling show.
Right,
so
exactly.
That's why the families come, and they come because the young kids, well, one, it's January and it's cold and you can get out, and the average person spends about 4 hours at the show.
Right.
But they get to to see things that they only see on a magazine. I've said before, it's the internet in reverse, and people are hungry for that, especially for motor vehicles. So yeah, it says chocolate brown on the screen. Well, you'll see what it is actually at the show, and it's not selling. So you can look through those vehicles and really compare. No pressure. There's product specialists to answer questions, but there's no selling on, which is what makes that special.
Well, and online you can't tell if a car fits you, and that means that can you get the seat adjusted just right? My partner has gargantuan feet, and he has to get he wears like 18s or something, and that's he's got to make sure that his feet will fit up into the well.
Especially SUVs. SUVs and pickup trucks are 80% of the brand new market in this country. It used to be 50-50 not that long ago, and people are there hitting the hatch on these small SUVs, and can they put Charlie, their black lab, in the back, or can they put their crate back in there?
Right.
And that's the beauty, and it's fun, right? Because you have, like I said, the classics. You have Custom Alley. You have E-Track, which has become very big. Maybe we'll talk a little later about electrification and what's going on in the country with that in the next segment. But it's a unique way to see that, and it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And have you seen, you talk about nostalgia and talk about how important that is to America. Has everybody here seen the new Chevy Suburban commercial? Oh
yes,
my gosh.
It's a blue?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The lady's got dementia or something there.
Yeah.
And it's just, it is, there are some amazing, what they spent to do that commercial was unbelievable.
They captured what they wanted to capture.
Exactly.
And the memory, and we all, everybody, not everybody, but a lot have a family member afflicted, and you don't know what sparks them.
Right.
But I could imagine that Suburban sparking that in that situation with the husband that she's had so long. It was a great commercial.
Especially when, they reveal it. When you take a car cover off of a car, most reveals happen that way, whether it's at a new car show or a hot rod builders unveiling, and it's always taking pulling the curtain back as they pull it back and reveal it. And that was part of it. And I think that's, when you see it in that format, it really makes you, it creates excitement and desire and all that. And that's what you're in the business of.
Sure. And the building that you have here that we're having the studio in is a testament to that, right? Look at the vehicles and the care and the ownership. And you said earlier about a dog and finding a good home. That is a great analogy. They love these vehicles, but for whatever reason, they need to be selling them. And they've had such care. And this is a testament in some ways of why auto shows and why the relationship between the American consumer for over a century is reflected here in these walls.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is that we have literally had deals kicked because the seller wouldn't sell it because he found out the buyer was going to hot rod the car or do something different to him. And he said, I'm not going to sell it to him. I can't know that.
Well, they're family members.
That's right. They absolutely
and
are.
they are family members.
And they're named a lot of times.
They are named.
Isn't that funny?
We had, when I was in high school in Helena, Montana, a buddy of mine had a green 1968 Travelall International Harvester.
Oh, how cool.
And it was only two-wheel drive, and it had like 27 doors. I can't remember. And it had a straight six, whatever it was, 3 on a tree, I think.
Yeah.
And we called it the Unk. And we're going to get the Unk out tonight.
Absolutely.
And we didn't pick up a lot of girls, but we thought we were pretty cool.
Pretty darn cool. Montana wasn't very populated back then. There were many girls to choose from.
There's a joke in there, but
absolutely. Did you do a lot of fly fishing when you were in Montana?
I did fly a lot of skiing. Grew up, born and raised, University of Montana, Harvard of the West, I say when anybody asks.
I love it.
And we were Grizz, so great state. And I ran the Montana auto dealers right out of college.
Really?
And was an assistant lobbyist there. Then I got the head job in Wyoming for the Wyoming auto dealers at the legislature in Cheyenne in 1997.
Right.
Philadelphia opened up, and long story short, here we are. My wife goes, I don't know if I want to travel back east. It's a great opportunity.
Right.
We'll mold it. They have a lot of resources. They need somebody young and try to do some things. I was younger then.
Sure.
And she says, well, I'm not raising kids there. And I said, well, of course not, honey. 27 years later, we've had a great life so far in Philadelphia.
My wife came here kind of the same way. I told her that if we ever moved again, we were in the center of the state in Lock Haven. If we ever moved again, it was going to be closer to Kansas City where the kids and the grandkids are. And we didn't move closer. But we we move closer to an international airport, which allows it. It's all kind.
It's tough.
It's tough. I mean,
It's
you know,
tough.
to move to a new place and to start over, if you will. And did I read correctly that the Philly Auto Show started in 1902?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I know. Whoever was the historian, you should see in my office. I have minutes and the budget from I think it was 12 or 13 was like 40 something, $4,200, $4,300.
That was a lot of money.
Our budget is a lot more than that.
I would imagine so.
Yeah. So, and the consumers, my favorite time at the auto show is Saturday morning when we open up, and watching the young kids with their parents or their grandparents, and running down and looking at those vehicles and running to Camp Jeep or running to the Lamborghinis or running to whatever, and just wide-eyed and just excited. And that makes parents excited too, to be able to do something with their family as we fuel Philadelphia.
Yeah, we see the same thing here. I mean, it's amazing the way that you see a grandfather, father, and son, and they're just all enjoying it just equally.
Yeah.
And you know, the great thing about it is cars do that, because you'll see Grandpa explaining the look of something, or what he did to one he had, or what happened in that car. And I mean, you just see it every day in here. Yeah. And I would imagine Saturdays are great at the Philly Auto Show, though. There's no question about it, because it is so many people in there. I mean, it is just elbow to elbow of people in a good way.
In a great way. And you got to remember too, about half of the people that come to the auto show will buy a car in the next 12 months.
Wow.
So there's the business side of that.
Sure.
And we understand that by doing a survey when they come. Are you in the market, or do you think you will buy? But then we survey them, 12 months later, did you buy?
Right.
And that's the business end, and why people utilize that, because they can compare a lot of vehicles in their niche, in the atmosphere that you and I described, in a fun way, in a day way, in the middle of winter, and enjoy themselves and see the internet in reverse.
Well, and like we see the same thing at auctions, where it's a mass of available stuff all in one place, so you don't have to drive around to every dealership in town, and that that's traffic and cumbersome, and you got the whole family getting in and out of the car and all that. Now you can go one place, see everything.
Well, and it's we've evolved. We evolved in two ways. One, that E-Track that we'll talk about, but also evolved in the sense of the consumer now is looking online about what they want.
Absolutely.
And it's a funnel, right? So they're looking at all that, but some of them wait. We see that in sales. If they're now a month out from the show, we can wait a little longer. Let's just compare it to all of these vehicles, and not on a computer screen.
Exactly, because it's hard to look at that. Absolutely, 100%. When we return, we'll talk more about the Philly Auto Show, and Kevin will enlighten us about some electric car stuff going on there too. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes on the Classic Auto Mall podcast.
If you'd like to know all the advantages of selling your car through consignment, the information is available on our website, so you can chat with a professional who can answer all your questions. It's easy, safe, and convenient, plus we sell worldwide. We're always adding new vehicles to our inventory, so make sure you check our website early and often. Subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on social media.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall podcast. Don't forget to go to our website, classicautomall.com. You can also catch the podcast, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pandora, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout's kind of cool. That's kind of a new one. I did not. No, they tell me I have a little cheat sheet up there. That's how I come off as being so smart. So, we were talking about off the air about concept cars and hoping to see General Motors bring more of them out into the market and let people see those, because I can tell you that in Chattanooga, I was doing an event not too long ago, and they had brought some of those concept cars from the Heritage Center at General Motors in Detroit. And they were the most futuristic, cool-looking cars, and the kids were flocking to them. And that's important. We've got to maintain that.
Yeah, I wish they did more. Even, I've been doing the show 27 years, and I remember when it was much more common. We do have a great concept car coming, the Buick Wildcat.
Nice.
If you've seen that debuted in Detroit a little bit ago. So we get them once in a while, but we used to have 6, 7, 8, and not just Philly. I mean, they just don't do them.
They just don't do them.
They're investing in.
They're not pointing you guys out and saying we're not doing it for them.
No,
I
think what they used to do is they would send these vehicles out and get the styling cues of what the public like, and kind of get that done. Now I think they do it with computers and focus groups.
Well, listen,
and they don't use the same process.
Every designer and every engineer went to the same school, and he's after the same thing, to get the most amount of fuel mileage out of the car and to get the most aerodynamic out of the car. And that's why people say, oh, a lot of cars look the same. Well, it's because they went to the same class.
Same process.
Yeah. So.
Before we get into EVs, I was going to say, I remember, we were talking about memories. I remember my grandfather's garage, and my father-in-law had owned a dealership in Wyoming, and I remember going into his garage and that smell. And I walked into the store. What was the first thing I said? I said, "Oh, I love that smell." It is classic.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if you'll have those with, this is a nice segue, with electric cars.
No.
What do batteries smell like?
You.
Well,
I could
not my first show.
I could say I led you there, but I didn't do anything. You just took it.
What's your take on electric cars personally? What do you think about electric cars?
No, I got it.
I know.
We're going to electrification. All right, I'm going to be more. I'm deciding how blunt I should be.
Right.
The fleet of vehicles in this country is going to change.
Absolutely.
Is changing before our eyes. The problem is it's difficult for a government and or the manufacturer to make a market if the consumer isn't ready yet. And some are. And right now, electric vehicles make up pure electric. There's so many acronyms and names people get. It's like buying mattresses. Right. They're all the same. They got different names and they price them different.
Tires are the same.
Yeah, all right. So you have a scenario of the consumer, though. It's about 8% of the market, but some of the goals or through the EPA, and by the way, we have 3 different entities controlling emissions and what's going on with these cars. You got the federal government, you got the government of California, and 17 states abide by that, and then you have the EPA coming in and having their own say.
Right.
But with all of that, they're looking at 40% maybe by 2027, and you've heard the comments from other GM and others that they're going to be free of all of that.
Right.
So I don't know how we get there because the early adopters take that 8%.
Absolutely.
And getting there between 8 and 40 is very difficult. With that said, we're moving. The product's coming.
Sure.
The billions of dollars have been invested.
Right.
And technology can change. So my caveat in what I'm saying today could be completely wrong if they go to solid state batteries or do things like that. But it's very difficult with the infrastructure to get that widespread. So I don't know if the cart got before the horse, the product before the infrastructure, but it's certainly a concern in regards to living, because it's a different DNA. You mentioned it wouldn't smell like this. No,
Exactly.
it wouldn't. And living with one, which I have a hybrid plug-in. It gets about 25 miles. It's wonderful because I can go to work and back and not burn any gasoline.
Right.
If I have to go places, but I don't have to worry and have the apprehension. With that said, the E-Track, though, as that market goes there, is very important. The show has always been a bastion of education of the consumer, whether it was 1902 that you had mentioned or today. Right. And as that portfolio transitions to electrification, the consumer has apprehension. People do not dispose of their money when they're apprehensive. And so the E-Track with the manufacturers that are on there, there'll be 5 or 6 manufacturers. By the way, go to phillyautoshow.com. You'll get anything there. Working on that feverishly, and update it every day. But it gets them in these vehicles. And there's also discussions about charging and what to do in your home because the infrastructure at home, that's why it's difficult in Philadelphia. How are you going to charge a vehicle? The whole metro,
the street.
The whole, and you know what happens now.
Yeah.
So it's a way to get people, some of these people, there'll be 40 or 50,000 people that get into an electric vehicle that haven't really been in an electric vehicle. So they feel the torque, and there are some advantages through that. Sure. So it's coming, and we're trying to educate them on the product that's going to be on the dealer's lots 2, 3, 4 years as far as propulsion is concerned.
Well, I can tell you, too, that education on a one-on-one basis is much better than just somebody reading it on the internet.
Yes.
Because, A, you don't really know for sure what's true and what's not true when you're reading something on the internet. And B, when you have that one-on-one, it's just like with us when we go out and do shows at the Philly Auto Show or other shows that we do. Our best marketing is one-on-one with the consumer.
Correct.
And we talk about things. And listen, I think that there's a place for electric vehicles. Don't get me wrong. I'm not this purist who's got gasoline in his veins and says, come hell or high water, I'm never going to. I get an electric car. Listen, they had electric cars in the early 1900s. Probably in 1902 at the Philly Auto Show, there were electric cars.
I found an ad. I found an ad. And they were fighting. They were
Yeah.
fighting between combustible engines and electrification. Obviously, combustible engines won.
And there are so many things that an electric vehicle makes sense for. A lady who lives, a widow by herself who lives 5 miles from everywhere she goes. A retired guy who just goes to the golf course and the country club and to the grocery store and all that downtown areas that people are not driving long distances. Where I think the stumbling block is going to be is for people long distance who want to drive to Florida, want to drive to California. Now, can they make a car that can recharge off the energy off a tire rolling down the highway? Probably. Maybe that's the way that they be. If it becomes, or solar or something, who knows what. I mean, there's all different ways.
I'm for EVs. I agree with you. I'm just concerned about the process to get there, and how bloody does it have to be in a sense of what's being made, the consumer taste, the affordability of cars is an issue. Right?
It's an issue, whether it's EV or
any
combustion engine.
Absolutely, EVs are a little more expensive, but their price is coming down. But all over the whole industry, and then you have rising interest rates, and people buy cars by monthly payments.
That's the number one question they ask. What's my payment going to be?
Per month. I mean, it's been that way since Methuselah was here. And so when you get higher price, the average vehicle now is in the low 40s.
It's crazy.
The average price of a new vehicle. So when you put that on top of higher interest rates, those monthly payments are going up. So it's a big deal, and affordability is a big deal. And on the EV side, that's where the real headway will be made, is if they can get a vehicle that is lower price, that has that technology and some range, so that the more broad demographic can purchase that or consider that.
Sure.
They're not going to consider broadly a $70,000 or $80,000 EV.
No, and not when also they may or may not, falsely or true or not true, if they think that the batteries are going to go bad in 5 years and you're going to have to get a $27,000 bill for replacing batteries. And of course, that may be an old wives' tale already, but who knows?
I know it's true in a certain narrow sense. I mean, you could take a look at replacing a Hummer
or a Tesla,
or something like that. So, but Tesla,
not the Prius. Or,
no. So it is the most. Everybody says this because it's always changing. That's what's great about our industry. But I'll say it anyway. This is the most transitory state of the auto industry. Probably since the assembly line with Ford and Mr. Ford. And why I say that is you have the pandemic and you have what went on with that. And then you have what's going on with interest rates going up. We've seen that before, but all the turmoil that we have seen and the change, you have to overlay the fact that the soul of the automobile is changing.
Right.
And your relationship with that automobile, whether you like it or not, at some point is going to change because of the DNA and the electrification. And that is going to happen. And so it has this robust change this industries always have, but you overlay the change of the soul of the vehicle. And it is interesting times for sure for everybody, the manufacturers, the consumers, the regulatory people, the dealers themselves. It's going to be crazy.
Well, when you get some of the millennials now, and I say millennials, that's probably in the wrong term, but kids today who are buying cars who don't care, it's an appliance to them. Some of them are just not car people. They just need something to get from point A to point B.
And that's okay.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to name manufacturers that make those washing machines, but they're there.
Absolutely.
And everybody needs a really good Maytag.
Absolutely.
Or a Kenmore, and that's fine for them. Not me, but it's fine for them.
I want something that I enjoy to drive, and if you don't stop and turn back and look at your car after you park it, then you're in the wrong car, or you're not a car person.
I just got a new car. I'm not going to tell you what it is. It's really
saw it
nice.
when you pulled in. I like it.
And it's nice. It's nice. And my wife was with me. She wasn't with me when I got it. And I go, yep, I know I bought the right one. You just look twice when we're going into the grocery store.
That is so indicative of what our generation did and learned about. And just cars were so important. I can remember as a kid making lists of the cars that I wanted to own and what I would do to one if I had it and all these things. And it was all cars. I mean, my whole life, everything that you ever did, if you think about it, usually revolved around a car. 99% of your life, going to have your first child, going to the hospital, accidents. Yeah, going to school, accidents that are accidents in the back seat and accidents on the highway too. But I mean, so many things that we did evolved around the automobile, and it's hard not for that to be just ingrained in us.
So let me tell you a little bit about your space with the AACA. That room at the convention center, which is the old train shed, which is marble and
beautiful,
very classy. It's the classiest space in the country. I go to a lot of shows. Absolutely. Have you gone overseas? And then putting the kind of product that you have and our friends from AACA and our good buddy, Mr. Jones.
Yes,
we could do a whole podcast about him. Good.
We absolutely could.
He's and he looks like Santa, which is really cool. I wish maybe even you probably put a picture up of him. But
we've had him on the show actually. He was great. He's just fantastic.
Saint Nick. Anyway, those vehicles in that area, especially during the day when that light's coming in, that natural, it is a museum.
Yeah, it really is.
It is. And those people come up from SEPTA because that's from the suburbs. That's where we come upstairs. You don't have to go outside. And the first thing they do, well, they buy a ticket, obviously. And then they come in and they are in the most beautiful museum of vintage, antique, classic vehicles in a microcosm any place in the country.
Well,
they're beautiful.
And one of the things that we try to, we're always trying to pick the right cars to bring. Yeah. That's always difficult because, we're in the sales business, although we don't sell down there. But we present them to them and people see them, they go to our website. But it's always a balance of, do I take something that's saleable or I take something that's really cool? And the really cool,
you do
the
a
really
good
cool
mix.
always wins.
Yeah.
It's always just like,
and where do you go into a museum and you see a Plymouth Superbird.
Yeah.
And Mr. Jones has a 1968 Jag.
And a 37 Cord and a Duesenberg and a Packard and you can name it.
Yeah, and so it's heck, I almost said hell. Hell, that's the price of
we
admission.
We can say hell. We can say
that's
damn.
That's the price of admission right there. And then, of course, they go down to, the Lamborghinis and the Aston Martins. And
that's amazing, the setup that they have on those. It's really spectacular. Well, listen, it couldn't have been more of a pleasure to have you on the show. And
I hope you invite me back.
We absolutely will. We can do this
myself.
Every year. We can do this before the
Maybe
auto
we'll
show.
bring Santa in.
Yeah, we should bring Santa in. Absolutely. We'll be back with the Classic Auto Mall podcast in a couple of minutes. See you then.
If you'd like to know all the advantages of selling your car through consignment, the information is available on the Classic Auto Mall website, or you can chat with a professional who can answer all of your questions. It's easy, safe, and convenient, plus we sell worldwide.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall podcast from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. What a great guest.
Yeah.
He's so passionate about that. I love guys that are so passionate about what they do. And, we have that here, but you don't always see that, and especially in his end, because he's more in the regulatory stuff and the legalese stuff and all that good stuff that you have with that goes along with all the fun stuff that we get to do is just test drive cars. And
I love the auto show.
Yeah, it's so cool. It really is.
My dad used to take me to the Chicago one at McCormick Place, and I was like, oh, man. They had a 63 Buick that was cut in half.
Right.
And they moved the car, and it's like, oh, man, that's so cool. The cars would flip over, and the engines cut in half, all that stuff.
Yeah, the cutaway cars are very popular, and they still are popular. You still see them at auctions. They sell those. A guy will have bought one somehow, some way from one of the manufacturers back in the day, and then he offers it for sale. And those things bring good money at auction. I mean, it's pretty amazing. But no, the Philly Auto Show for us. I mean, in 2018, when we started Classic Auto Mall, January 1st, 2018. We almost immediately got invited to the Philly Auto Show, which was about the third weekend. I mean, we had no time to prepare for it. It was like, oh, by the way, we'd like to have you there, and 6ABC is going to come out and do a segment on you, and we're going to, we're going to blow your business up in one day.
Wow!
And it happened, and it was amazing. And we went there, and the response was phenomenal. And all of a sudden, we went from consigning. I mean, I think in January of 18, we consigned like 5 cars for the whole month. In February, we consigned like 40.
Wow.
And today, that wouldn't be enough. But
right.
but back then, back in the good old days, 2018.
Big deal.
That was a big deal. And I think that a lot has to do with the Philly Auto Show from that success. So we appreciate those guys. We support them. They support us. It's a win-win situation. We promote them. They promote us. Gosh, how could you ask for a better thing? I mean, two entities that are looking at the kind of the same end result. So some other new inventory that we didn't get to before we had Kevin on the show is the 2014 Lotus Evora S. How cool is that car? Motorsport green metallic over black. 44,000 actual miles, so it's just getting broken in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not.
That's a driver.
That's a driver.
It's a good car.
And those are supercharged Toyota engines, the 3.5 liter V6.
Can't go wrong with that.
6-speed manual. This one is just really a cool. And of course, they have such great names. They had the Europa, the Exige, Elise. They talked about making it the Xera, the
Esprit. I guess E is their thing.
Eclat. Remember there was from back in the way back in the days. And what else?
Crazy stuff. Yeah, I think it's all of them. I think we've named every single Lotus model.
Esprit was the one that most people are familiar with.
That's right.
Though. You would see if you put Lotus in, or if Lotus was in the dictionary, it would have the picture of the Esprit.
I think we had one here a couple years ago.
We did. Yeah. We absolutely did. And of course, they used the Esprit in that James Bond movie. Was it Live and Let? No, not Live and Let Die. It was.
Remember who you're asking here?
Yeah, that's right, Mr. Non-movie guy. But anyway, the Lotus Evora is
beautiful car.
Really, and it's the S model, so it's got a little more power. Also in 1958, MGA Roadster, British Racing Green over black. It's an older restoration, but it's held up well, and these are just such fun cars to drive. They're different than an MGB, like a lot of people are familiar with and would see, that were built all the way into the 70s. I guess in the 80s they built those. The MGA was a different car. It was lower to the ground. It was more sporting, even though it may not have been fast. It felt like it was fast. If you're the lower your center of gravity to the road is, the faster and more exciting the car can be, even if it's not going as fast as a car with higher center of gravity and all that. But this one's got light new leather interior. It's an inline 4 with a 4-speed manual. It's got the trust certificate, which is kind of like, I guess, the British version of a build sheet, if you will. It comes from the manufacturer, tells about what the car was born with, what the engine number was, and all that. You can get it on Rolls Royces and Jaguars and MGs, and I'm sure other British cars have those as well, too. So certainly nice to see some kind of documentation of what the car was or wasn't when it was born, because a lot of people don't know. Also in is a 72 Ford Mustang Mach 1. Now, you talk about a car that wasn't loved for a long time. Nobody cared for those things.
That body style,
They were big and long and bulky, and they 351 in them, which probably could have used a little more power back in the day, but I don't know. These things have really come on strong as of late, and the Mach 1s are just really popular now, and they don't stick around long. So I don't suspect that this one in bright red over black will last very long. It's got the Deluxe Marty report, which tells you everything, again, just like the trust certificate, what it was built with, numbers matching Cleveland 351 cubic inch V8, and factory air conditioning. Which was nice, especially in that big car with a big back window.
Giant,
and that's why they put the slats on the back. Remember the
louvers.
Louvers, to keep the heat out.
Right.
Because it was just a big flat surface of magnifying glass.
It's almost like a shooting brake in a way. It's got that big.
It really does.
Backside.
Yeah. Oh. The Spy Who Loved Me.
Okay, thank you.
The movie, and actually the Lotus went into the water, and then it had
it did.
It had the little rudder fin things.
I'll have to check that out.
Like an amphicar.
Yeah, there was some show where they were in Las Vegas and actually restored it for some museum or something. One of the restore car shows.
My buddy down in Orlando has it now.
Okay.
Deser, who's got the old outlet mall in Orlando. It's a big kind of doing what we're doing, sort of. It's more of an arcade and kids' place and go-kart tracks and stuff like that. But they do have quite a collection of cars and quite a collection of Bond movie cars and airplanes and boats and motorcycles and different things that were used in the James Bond movies.
A lot of neon in that place.
And a lot of neon, too.
There was a guy that owned a radio station in Philadelphia, Jerry Lee, that had one of the Aston Martins from the movie.
Well, there was a guy I know that down in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, there was the Smoky Mountain Auto Museum, and they had one of the DB5 Aston Martins that was from the James Bond movie, and he had bought it. The guy who finally had passed away down in Pigeon Forge, who had the museum. He had bought it years before it was even collectible, before people were thinking about movie cars being of any value. Back then, it was just a used car. Who cared?
That's right.
And in a DB5 Aston Martin in the 60s, you could probably buy for $2,500. And I mean, you go through the old road and tracks of the old Hemmings from back in the day, and you go, "Oh man, why?
If you only knew.
Why didn't I? Why? But listen, at the end of the day, people." We don't know. I mean, if we knew everything about everything, then we'd
be billionaires.
We'd be billionaires. Could have invented pantyhose before they came
right.
out, or something that people
like that.
use.
Soap.
You need Marty McFly's future sports book.
Exactly.
Post-it notes. There's a lot of things that you could have invented that if you knew ahead of time. But just because you knew about it doesn't mean you could have done it right. I had ideas of businesses that are now successful. If I'd had the money to do them at the time, would I have done them the same way? Not necessarily. Would I have done them right? Probably not. So, it's one of those things. Also want to give a shout out to our friend Harry Hurst, who has these wonderful 24 by 36 inch canvas prints pictures he took from sports car racing back in the early 70s at Sebring and Road Atlanta and Daytona. And we have them down our north hallway towards our bathroom in our north mallway. And they're for sale, and there's probably 8 or 10 of them in there. If you get a chance, go down the hallway towards the bathroom.
Most people do have the chance. It's usually the first stop they make.
Well, usually because people have a long drive to get here.
Right.
So
high visibility location.
That's right. Hey, I think they might have a bathroom in there.
You would think that would be a negative, but no, that's probably a positive for that.
Harry also has the Glory Days of Racing. Harry's been on our show, too. The Glory Days of Racing on Facebook. And it's become phenomenally successful. Over 150,000 members he has on this page. And just a great all-around guy. And he has involved with the Simeone Museum as well, too. And great guy. We've had him on. We'll have to have him on again soon.
He's got a lot of stories.
He's got lots of stories and written some books. And like I said, the photography is great. I've got about 4 or 5 of them in my office. I keep pilfering one at a time, hoping nobody's going to notice, but I think they do. I get a bill or something. So, but anyway, I just talking about new technology and stuff. I just read yesterday, Ferrari is still taking crypto for purchase of new Ferraris. Yeah, which is interesting because it's like you kind of wonder where crypto was so prevalent a couple of years ago, and now it seems like you don't hear about it nearly as much. I mean, there's been some.
I feel vindicated for not getting into it. So I feel like it's kind of on the way. It's on the way down. I know nothing about it.
I know nothing about it either, other than it's some kind of online form of payment. And I know that I bought some mutual fund-esque.
That's right.
Cryptocurrency with about 10 different companies all involved, and it's actually gone above what I paid for it. So
that's
now I'm thinking about dumping it. So.
And then it'll take off.
Of course it will, because that's my MO. But anyway, it was just interesting that any of the manufacturers would take that because it's volatile. I mean, it's not like, listen, if you take a payment in the United States in your businesses in Europe, that value can go up and down. But if you take $100 cash in the United States, it's going to be worth $100 cash tomorrow. Well, we hope.
Right. Or somewhere in there.
Yeah. But I mean, crypto goes up and down in value. So if Ferrari sells you a car and it's a $200,000, I don't even know if you can buy a $200,000 Ferrari, probably not. It's a $300,000 car, and you pay in crypto. Well, I mean, what if crypto goes down 50%? Are they going to call you back and say, "Hey, you owe us more money"?
Do you cash it in? I know nothing about it. You get it?
They had a Super Bowl ad where you got $5 in crypto or $10 in crypto. So I don't know. I have it. I'm hoping it'll go to $1 million
and some of these people that have Bitcoin, they have to have this password for it, and if you don't know what your password is, you lose all your money or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So way outside of what I want. By the way, too, in case you're still looking, we still have a few of our barn finds left for sale here. Just understand that they probably don't have keys, battery, or a title. But other than that, and they don't run.
They're cool, though.
They're cool.
But they're very cool, and they're some of them are more worthy than others. But we had 400 barn finds when we started, January 1st of 18. We took 100 out that my partner said, I never want to sell, so no sense in having them there. And then we're down to about 80 of the ones left. So we've sold 150 or 60 or 70 of these barn finds. And, of course, usually people are buying them because they have another one just like it and they need parts, and it's cheaper to buy a whole car than it is sometimes the parts.
Yeah.
You go buy a couple of bumpers, and you could spend $1,000, you might be able to buy a car with a couple of bumpers for $500.
Yeah.
I worked at a couple of car dealers, and there, one of the wholesalers said it's cheaper. Cars are cheaper by the dozen.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if you could disassemble these cars and sell them that way, you could probably sell them for a lot more money.
Yeah,
a lot of them.
but one sold as it's going to be used as a display at a coffee shop or something like that. That pickup truck was so cool. I thought, what a great idea!
Yeah, an old '50s pickup truck with lots of patina.
No, it was way earlier. Than
no,
that.
it was 30s,
20s or 30s.
Yeah, that's right.
I took a picture of it because it had what's the green moss growing in the back bed because it had been sitting for so. It was really cool. Like
what's that mossy green stuff?
Yeah,
oh, it's moss. Yeah.
Oh, and before we go, I got to mention I went back through, took the back route here, and found an Army Jeep.
Yes.
I mean with the
bullets.
the bullet. What do they call that? The sling that has the shells in it. And the whole, oh man, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
It's real Army.
It's real Army. It's not just pretend Army. So anyway, when we return next week, we'll have another guest hopefully with us, and we'll continue this trend of actually getting people in the studio. It's not as easy as it sounds, folks. So don't call me up griping. So anyway, we'll see you next time on the Classic Auto Mall podcast. Don't forget to go to our website, classicautomall.com. See you.
You've been listening to the Classic Auto Mall podcast with your host, Stewart Howden, executive producer Steve Safir, produced and engineered by yours truly, J.R. Russ. Thanks for listening and sharing the Classic Auto Mall podcast. Available on classicautomall.com, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Music courtesy of the Pat Travers Band, produced by Car Smarts Media, copyright 2023, all rights reserved.